How many watching this video today have seen me do the mirror effect with decoupage paper with old frames? So I had no idea that they would be so popular. I cannot keep them in my pegboard in my retail booth. Oh my goodness. So I'm completely out. So I went ahead and grabbed some of the old frames that I have thrifted that were just old frames. So I spent the money to put glass in them. And I don't know, so it was 5 frames, it was $80, but I can get $75 to $100 per frame, per picture, depending on how it turns out. You always like, oh my gosh, I need it to turn out well. So I've already invested in the glass. I know that's a big step. And yeah, I know last video I did, people suggested looking at the thrift stores. Well, I do look. I can get 11 by 12 or 11 by 14, 8 by 10, the smaller, I can get all that. But when it comes to those big pieces, I'm talking, we're doing some big frames here, y'all. The chances of finding them slim to none and being the perfect fit. You can cut glass down if you're way talented. And Chris is pretty talented at that. That would make me nervous. But yes, I've got 4 on my table, you guys. I ordered some different decoupage paper from Zazzle. Wait till you see it. So 2 of the pieces I've used before, but I got 2 other ones that I think will really match the vibe of what the frame's going on. So that's one of the things with these old frames. I'm trying to match up the old images, like what might have been in them. I don't, some Victorian picture probably, which is beautiful, but they were empty frames. So, okay, let me stop babbling. Let me show you what I'm going to be working on in this video. Yep, I've got my table full. I've got 4 frames, 4. So they're traditional of the beautiful swan and Godwink moment. All these are fitting, but I'm still going to do that mirror effect because I'm thinking that's what people are liking. Because I can just do decoupage paper and it'll take a little while to sell. I've never had anything it's a new look, I think, is what's going on. I've done the mirror effect with old windows, but not with old frames. So I think that's what's making the like a little personal, handcrafted, one-of-a-kind artwork to go into somebody's house. So we have the swan, and then we have, look at this beautiful black sheep. Oh my gosh, and the little daisy wildflowers. So we have another old frame. I'm bringing back the horse because I just think the horse is classic. He is classic. He didn't even spend like 2 days in my booth. The smaller version that I did. So I think this frame is a good match. And then look at this guy. He is gorgeous. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, all these are fitting, but I'm still going to do the mirror effect with that. And then that beautiful red barn kind of helps me choose what color I'm going to make this frame. So the thing that I didn't think about when I asked them to put glass in these old frames is that they were being so kind and they siliconed the glass in. So the glass is permanent. I'm not going to try to loosen up that silicone. I'm not going to try to, I'm just going to leave it in. I'm just going to work with what I have. So I'll be working on the glass first before painting the outside of the frame. So that's just how it's going to be today. And the nice thing about it, since all these prints from Zazzle fit, I don't have to cut anything down. So hopefully I can get these 4 out in one day and get them into my booth the next day and pray for the best that, just because something's flying off your shelf one time doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to fly off your shelf the next time. If y'all could figure out the trends in the retail market, let me know, because it's a hit or miss. It takes that right buyer to come in and buy something. The first thing that I need to do is I need to put all these decoupage papers underneath the glass so I can trace the animal that's in. They're all animals. The animal that's in it. So you want to put this under the glass, and then I'll be tracing around it. So see where you can see the silicone. So I'm not going to have to worry about these budging. That's good. Oh, look at this. This is wonderful for these old frames that have been slightly beat up. painting them, distressing them, making them look old. They're gorgeous. Even like this one. Look at this one. This one, he's a little tattered, but who cares? Put some glass in them, put some paper in them. Oh, beautiful. Now these two, I believe, are wood. This one's a little resin, so it's going to be a little bit trickier when I go to try to paint the frames. You have all that detailed area and you don't want it all just to chip off, but I'll share that with you as we work on the process. So honestly, I feel like I'm doing a little mass production going on here, but it'll be okay. Perfectly, it'll be okay. Because why something is hot, or you think it's hot, you want to try to get it in there. So see, it's clipping a little bit of his tail off. I definitely don't want to take away any of the beak. But even though it looks can be deceiving, that one is a little bit bigger, it is not. It is actually the same size. But I know I already loved this frame for this guy. Loved it. I knew right away. And the same with this one. I love this one. So the only two, if I was going to change them out, were going to be those two. And that's the way it's going to stay. I just have to be careful. Okay, sorry about the glare from the overhead lights. But what I'm doing now is I'm taking a Sharpie and I'm tracing my animal largely. So you can see the outline. And then I'm going to go to my sheep. And then I'm going to do my horse. And you see I'm not going right up to the image. I've done that mistake. And then when I put my image on there, it's too close. Now I want that barn to be a focal point. Is that not a terrible sound? What? There you go. Okay. And then so I can see when I'm spraying, I'm just going to do some big X's in the blank spot. It'll wash off. To do the effect, I'm going to do all 4 windows at the same time, and you got a mask on, so I'm going to talk once. So mirror effect spray, and then to get the aged mirror, I have vinegar, distilled vinegar in a mister bottle, just distilled vinegar. Plain old. I think this is from the Dollar Tree or Dollar General or something like that. Nothing fancy. And I'm not going to worry about taping the frame off because I will be backing the frame and hiding any of the overspray that will happen. So there's that. So let me mask on and let's start getting some mirror effect done. Okay, so now that the mirror effect is dry, I'm going to go back with a shop cloth and I'm going to tap off all those water spots. Well, I guess not water spots. I'm going to tap off all those vinegar spots. And I usually like to repeat the process a couple times so you get that true mirrory look. But make sure you do this process when it is dry, or you might make a little bit of a mess. Okay, now it's time to put the decoupage paper on. So try to line it up. Okay, I think we are good. Going to be using some Fusion's Decoupage Transfer Gel. And as we go right over the mirror effect, try to spread it out as evenly as you can. And I'm going to miss that section of paper. Very gently going to flip that piece of paper over using a saran wrap ball. Just a piece of saran wrap I pulled off of the saran wrap container and tried to make kind of a ball out of it. Because for some reason your hand pressure when the decoupage paper is wet likes to rip the paper. So now we flip this part over, going to where we finished off with the transfer gel, and then just keep doing the same until we get it all the way on. And then I'll take a brayer and then just try to, I've never worried about if there's creases. The more you try to pull the paper back up, the chances are you could rip it. So you just have to let that be what it is. So if you watched me do these before, you know that I had put black on the back of these to get the mirror to show up more, but because they are the exact size of the frame, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to chance covering up any of the image itself. I flipped them over. I think I can envision through the Sharpie and the decoupage transfer gel that it's still going to be beautiful with just a little bit of that mirror effect. But now I need to go in and shellac the frames because or my paint may not stick. So you can't really sand all this detail area. Some of it is very smooth, but I don't want to spend the time to tape it all off. So I'm going to tape around just the edges, and I'm going to use a jar. Did you know that shellac comes in a can? Yes, so I'm going to brush it on, other than usually where I'm spraying it on. So I've kind of like changed up a few little techniques. You kind of just change to the project you're doing, the image you're doing. You know, I wish there was like do this, do this, do this, do this. But sometimes you got to go off that path. If you're like, wow, that's really pretty when I was peeking underneath, I don't need the black, and I don't want to take the time to tape off 4 humongous frames so I can spray them. So luckily in my arsenal, I still have a can of shellac. So yep, it always looks like a hot mess when you still have the Sharpie on there and the glue's not dry yet. And they put these glass, and I'm not complaining. I'm not going to complain that they put this glass so nice and tight. So that's okay. I am happy that I get to finally use these frames, and that I had a can of shellac in my stash of supplies. So shellac like this is probably going to ruin my brush. So I'm going to use one of my cheaper brushes that I can just throw away. So no, it won't be much of a change. It's just something for the paint to grab on. Okay, so for all 4 frames, I'm going to be using Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, which is a powder paint. So I'm going to start off with Red Wagon. These are big frames. And lots of detail to get into. So I'm going to do 3 scoops. I'm going to put my liquid in there. A little top there. Then you stir it up, incorporate the powder and the water together. I'm going to be mixing it up the same way, but for the horse, I'm going to be doing suitcase. For the sheep, I'm going to be doing lantern. One, I will be doing flour sack. Okay, it's set up a little bit. I'm going to give it another stir because it kind of sinks to the bottom a little bit. So every time you go to use it after it's been sitting, you should probably give it a stir. Not necessarily always with whatever you stir it with. You can definitely do it just with the brush. So you see what I'm matching, don't you? Don't you? That'll be so fun. This is definitely a deep, a deep frame. So when it comes to detail, you kind of like just smushing it in there. It's funny, milk paint is the only paint that I'm never worried about brush strokes or anything like that, and it pooling or you would not want that to do it like with fusion paint or anything like that. Like, but and then this is where the shellac is going to be helpful, especially on these sides that are so smooth. Ooh, I knew this one was going to be slidey. Meaning when I put the paint on, it was just going to be like, yeah. We're going to have to wait for that first coat of paint to get on there. So the second one will grab better. Just a little bit different. Now this part won't be as slidey because it's actually real wood. The other, on the other hand, is probably some kind of resin. So it does make the difference in how paint sticks, if it's absorbing in or if it's just laying on top of it. And the black is so heavily pigmented. I love it. Yes, I could have done white, but it's fun to do a whole bunch of different colors. And I do think, like, as I'm pouncing it in, I think that also helps get those crackles and the chippiness because it's not like these little smooth coats. I don't ever worry about trying to make it all thin and even, and not like I can control the crackles, but I'm hoping for them. That's what gives it that old look that people seem to be liking. In my area, anyway. Oh, now this, I saved the best for last. This one has a ton of detail. So it's a lot of just pushing it into those spots. I've actually done a ton of mirrors like this in the white. Mirrors, frames with pictures, decoupage. probably one of my best sellers, I guess, of a detailed frame. Lots and lots of detail. And where do I get most of my frames? A lot of my frames I really will get at auctions. I can't say too often. I think one of these might be thrifted from a Goodwill, which I think is the one maybe with the horse on it. I'm not sure. But yes, most of them come from auctions. I do look at estate sales. I do find smaller ones at estate sales. And I think they're just picture frames hanging out in the basement or a barn or something like that because the glass had broke and they just didn't replace it for one reason or another. Maybe they didn't have the means. We're luckily we know not that we know somebody with a business, but we use the same business for glass breakage, so they've always been good to us. So I'm like, hey, why don't you see if we can do some frames, if they'll do some frames? So I never had thought about that before. Isn't that funny how you don't, then you're also like, well, they fix glass. I'm sure they'll put glass in old frames. Take it one day, the next day it was done. That was awesome. So these are those details when it's missing. If I paint them and it's all the same color, you don't notice it as much. So that's what I do. So when it chips off or it's crackling or I distress it with some wax, it's definitely not as noticeable as it was before. Not that coat number 2 isn't exciting, but you do see some crackling. And I definitely want to make sure that I get 2 coats on this side because that's really one of the things that's going to help out with it, getting those little crackles, little crazies. So I'm going to concentrate on those areas first and then go back and do the detail. I know the detail had a lot of paint on it for having to go like boom, 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 boom. So as you're doing the second coat, it is totally fine. And if you need to add water, it just helps your paint go farther. It makes it a little bit smoother. Sometimes because the moisture of the second coat reactivates the first coat, you need that water. This one has some beautiful cracking going on, but it definitely needs that second coat. So I gave it a good try. No, I did not complete these in the day because I needed to let the paint dry completely before waxing them. You know how that goes, weather, other things that interrupt your day. So I'm back out here this morning to finish them up, giving them some more age with some wax. Now my white frame, I do need to seal in with some polyacrylic, some kind of clear coat. If not, any waxes other than clear will change the color of the white, and that's not what I want. It did some beautiful, amazing crackle overnight, y'all. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to go ahead and spray it and then let that dry and work on the other three. So milk paint does need to be sealed in with something. Whether you're just going to leave it with the polyacrylic or unless you're going to change it, and seal it in with wax. So that's where the fun of waxes come in for me, and then what it brings out in the product. Now I find when we're doing black, I got to be careful with polyacrylics, clear wax, or anything like that because it wants to make it look chalky. So I'm going to go right for Jolie's black wax and seal this in. So this is just going to be black on black, and there's nothing wrong with that. So now, once I got it on, I'm never gentle when I'm rubbing off. Okay, for the horse, I am still going to be doing the black. We're going to age the frame. I know, it's scary, but I'll show you. And then now I'm going to go back in with some Fusion's aging wax. Instead of doing like a clear brush on, brush off, I'm doing another dark color. And then once I get that on, then I'll wipe off the excess. And remember, I'm not gentle. Whatever chips off, chips off. Okay, time for scary. Yep, straight black on this red. Same thing, make sure that I get it in. These tipped brushes from like Walmart and Amazon are awesome to get that wax in there. I'm going to wipe off and I'm going to see what it looks like. Okay, now time for the white frame. We're going to be using just the aging wax on here, unless I think it goes dark when I go to wipe it off, and I'll use some clear. But there again, I'm using that little tipped brush, getting it into those detail areas. I'm not terribly worried about it soaking in because I sprayed it with polyacrylic to seal that milk paint in. Okay, wax on, wax off. Clear wax, because I want it to be a little bit whiter than that. You can tell the difference between a little bit of the white, a little bit of the clear wax and not clear wax. So it does make a little bit of a difference. There's just so many looks you could go with. Just time to clean it, get that tape off. And how the marker that I grabbed actually was my outdoor marker, so I have to kind of wet it, and it wasn't just a regular Sharpie, if you noticed. We have an outdoor booth, and so it's a marker that actually works, that it doesn't fade or water. Oops. Well, it worked, so it just needs a little extra help getting off the glass, which is not any big deal. I always like to take the air compressor and blow all the little pieces off. A sheet of poster board, Dollar Tree store, and I'm just going to do some markings to go ahead and cut this down. There's enough of a lip back here. I want to protect that glass from the back also, so I'm going to use my favorite framing tool, this in the frame. Now we have our glass and our decoupage protected from the back. And then I have some double stick tape, and I'm just going to run along the edges so we can put some backing paper on here. And then I'm just going to get some of the backing paper on. And then I just take 80 grit, sandpaper, whichever, doesn't matter what grit, just back and forth to cut that edge nice and clean. And then to tighten it up and give it some age, I'm going to take a mister bottle and mist it, the paper down. This is a new technique for me. System. I just use these little eyelet hooks that I get at, I don't know, there's like 100 or something in a pack from Amazon. And I have a short little ruler that came probably with an auction haul. My wire of choice is usually 17 gauge because I'm usually hanging something heavy. So, which these old frames, now that it has glass and all this in it, definitely will be on the heavy side. I always like to give it a good pull to make sure that, sometimes you get rotted wood, so you want to make sure you pulled it nice. So am I allowed to tell you how amazing I believe these look? Oh my gosh. So the paper fit the glass, the whole frame. And so when I was doing the mirror effect, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do the black because the black would stop it. The black would not let you see through to the paper. So you have the whole image, and then you have that mirror, that reflection, that hint of reflection. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. Now, if I would have backed the mirror effect with black, it would have stopped you from seeing the whole piece of paper, and it would have been a little bit more mirrored, yes. But I actually like, you have to go with your gut feeling when you're crafting. That's what I said. You have to throw all those things that you think that you know about crafting and just go with your gut feeling. There's so many different ways to achieve a look, but tweaking it, and always tweaking it to get different results for each project you're doing. Oh my gosh, I love them. I love that guy back behind me. Oh my gosh, that red frame just sets off with the barn. Would you thought a red frame, right? Right? So give me a quick comment down below. Have you tried the mirror effect yet? Yes, you don't have to have old frames. Windows work the same. Oh, this paper is amazing from Zazzle. I am an animal lover, so I tend to go searching for animals, and so far, fingers crossed that they are going to sell for me just as well. Because 2 days of working on them, I thought I'd get this done in one day and it'd be no problem. That's if I could go one day and just continuously work on them, but life happens and you have things to do in your life. But give me a quick comment down below. Have I inspired you to go to those barn sales, dig out those frames that nobody else wants, that's covered and dirty, and go get some glass put in them? Because a $2 frame, really, I don't think I spent more than $2 on any of the frames. Probably the most I spent was at Goodwill for the one frame. I definitely wasn't $2, maybe $5. But yes, paying to have glass put in them. It has my heart. They are gorgeous. All four of them to me are gorgeous. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope I have inspired you in any way. And also thank you for being part of our YouTube family. If you want to join, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we upload a new video. And we will see you next time, guys. And you can see what we're up to. Bye.